Dimmu Borgir, the black metal band true cultists love to hate. Today, I'm going to see if it's possible to recreate Mourning Palace off of their 1997 landmark album, Enthrone Darkness Triumphant, using only home studio tools. But first, let's rewind a little bit, because for this album, Dimmu Borgir wanted to level up, so they made very specific, deliberate decisions. The first decision was English only. They wanted to reach a wider audience. The second decision was signing with Nuclear Blast for bigger distribution and better marketing. And the third decision was recording with Peter at Abyss Studio. Now, of course, all of these decisions came with a backlash. Why wouldn't they? This is black metal. There were a lot of bad vibes with some of the local bands in Oslo saying it was crap, but we got so much response from people around the world, and that's when we started to tour a lot more and get attention from people. So, did the decisions that they make pay off? Well, we're talking about this album 30 years later, aren't we? We wanted to do something that gave our material justice. The sound on the Stormblast album didn't come close to what we wanted. Peter had only recorded 3 albums there at the time, so it was a gamble. But then we've always been taking gambles. Sometimes you do right, and sometimes you do wrong. This one, I think we did right. The result, well, Enthrone Darkness Triumphant was hailed as pretty much the blueprint for symphonic black metal. And songs like Mourning Palace proved that black metal could be elevated with orchestration and clarity without losing intensity. And most importantly, without it having to sound like absolute total garbage. Now, for as popular as Enthrone Darkness Triumphant ultimately became, there's not a lot of information about how it was recorded other than it was recorded by Peter at Abyss, which is fine. But as far as cymbals and shells, no fucking clue. The main thing that I tried to do with this recreation is just get the kick drum and the snare pretty close. The kick drum is really clicky on the album. I suspect it's a trigger of some kind, actually same with the snare, but this is the preset that I came up with here. It sounds like this. So it has like a roomy vibe to it, lots of reverb. And in Superior Drummer 3, I'm using darkness here, and in the mixer, just really basic EQ on all of the tom shells, snare bus, some reverb on here, throwing it through some tape saturation and compression on the master out. It's just a preset that I make for myself for this video. Now, when it comes to bass, I did a couple things different. First thing I did here is I used this Bone Stager by Oracle Sound. You may have seen the Pain Stager that I did a couple weeks ago, also by Oracle Sound. Really wanted to try the Bone Stager. Works out really well. I'm gonna make a video about this, but I want you just to pay attention here. I'm not using an amp simulator. I'm only using this single plugin. So I'm not using this and then pushing it into an amp simulator. I'm using only this plugin for the distortion sound. So here's the clean DI. The bass is just a $200 El Cheapo with EMGs that Dominic put in it. So perfect bass for black metal. So I'm using the channel strip this time just out of curiosity. So we got the compressor here, which I've already talked about. What you want to do is just control the peaks and the dynamics of the bass. When I did that, the pick scrape of the pick that Dom's using got a little bit out of control. So what I did there was just tamed it a little bit. And then we go to the channel strip, which is where I'm doing even more compression for more. Well, I mean, again, what you want to do is you want to control the bass, right? So more compression here, got some tape saturation, want to put some mid grunt back into the bass, and then limiter, just really basic processing on the bass to make it sit in its spot, do the low end of the mix. The bass without the channel strip sounds like this. You can hear all the extra compression and tape saturation kind of fattens up and makes the bass more meaty again. But that is the extent of the bass guitar, and when you put this in context with the drums and guitars, when I mute the bass guitar out of this mix, the entire mix just falls apart. The thickness and the 3D-ness of just the entire mix goes away. Bass guitar really matters, guys. With the regular guitars, it's kind of funny. A couple months ago, I made a guitar preset based on this album. It's called Triumphant Darkness, and you can get it from my Symphonic Black Metal Volume 1 pack. It's for Gojira X. It's obviously a PV sound. And I just was like, let's see if it works. I put it in here, I loaded it up, and by golly, this is the sound. There's no EQ on these guitars anywhere. It's just the preset. The only thing I had to do in the preset was I engaged the overdrive because we're doing the song in standard D. I made the preset in standard E. So with the overdrive, cleaned it right up, tightened it up, sounded fantastic. So like I say, this is just the preset. You can get it on my website. And if we go to the group track here, I am doing the Andy Sneap trick for the Paul mutes. That's it. No other EQ. If I cycle through all the channels here, you can see nothing is happening. No EQ. Go to the mixer. All my guitars are orange. There's no EQ. That's the guitar. It's pretty boring. Nice. Let's move on to vocals. Very basic chain here with vocals again. The main thing that we're always wanting to do with vocals is to even out the performance, especially in black metal or death metal, because it needs to sound like the vocals are always kind of like in your face and aggressive and exciting. The first thing we're going to do here is compression. We want to even out the vocals, so we get rid of the dynamics in the vocals, kind of make them consistent, every single syllable. Got a de-esser for all the S's and the sibilants. Limiter, your super bog standard shit. These are all stock plugins, by the way, nothing out of the ordinary. Mono delay adds some atmosphere and some slap back into the vocal. And then reverb. What in the hell would black metal be without reverb on vocals? And then EQ here, super basic EQ, thinning out the low end, a little bit of dip in the mids. And also EQing some of the sibilants out to help with the de-esser. The vocals end up sounding like this.
With three voices, somebody screams, waiting for Satan to burst.
Let's hear with nothing engaged. So here are the dry vocals.
With three voices, somebody screams.
You will note that that is the sound of the voice. Okay, so put in some EQ.
With three voices.
Clearing it out a little bit, and then we put all the inserts on.
With three voices, somebody scream.
Sounds pretty damn black metal. Let's put everything in, except for the synths, and let's listen to this.
Daylight just finally leaves to sun. When Stephen falls, strikes into the sky.
So there we go with vocals. Now let's move on to the pain in the ass part of this video, which would be the synths. The synth sound is not going to be exact because they are using the Korg X5. There is not a Korg X5 BST on the market anywhere. I did do some searches out of just my own amusement to see if I could find one that's for sale, and actually I found a couple. But I'm not going to spend $200 just to run this recreation, through the keyboard for this video. I mean, could be cool in the future to have it just for shits and giggles, but I'm definitely not doing it for this video. So what I ended up doing is what I've done with a lot of these recreations from the 90s is I'm using the Korg Triton VST. It's not the same. It's a similar vibe. It's close enough for government work. Okay, it's fine. So the strings here, let's hear what we got. So we're obviously missing some of the snarl and the gnarliness and the bow scratchiness of the cellos and more of the staccato-esque elements of the original X5 on the album. But again, it still has a bit of a synthy, Korg sound to it. Those are the strings. So pretty self-explanatory there. Now, with the pizzicatos, it was a little bit easier because it's a little bit easier to make these sound better in the mix because a pizzicato is a pizzicato, right? Pretty much all attack, and as long as it has that kind of plucked sound to it, it'll fit. All right, and if we put everything in context here. It really doesn't call itself out too much, not as much as the strings do in the beginning. By the way, once everything comes in, the strings kind of sound a little better in context with everything else. So So when it all comes together, the strings and stuff, like, okay, they blend in, they sound okay, but yeah, definitely not even close to the original sample like on the album. And then we have the piano sound here during this particular break. And with the piano, I was looking for something that had a lot of attack. That's what it sounded like on the album. And we got to something like this. It kind of sounds silly by itself, but once again, once you put it in the mix, it somehow works and it somehow fits. So the piano and the pizzicato were pretty simple to come up with. Then we get to the choirs, and the choirs are once again not exact. I really couldn't find a patch or a combi of patches that got the same exact tonal timbre character that's on the album. That's just the way it's going to be, guys. You know, if I keep doing these recreations of 90s black metal that use Korg X5s, just don't expect to get the same sound. It's not going to happen. But I have a pretty cool sound that sounds like this. And once again, it has that nice synthy 90s quality to it. And then when you put everything in here in the mix, it ends up working out, actually. And here you go. Here's my recreation of Mourning Palace using just basic mixing fundamentals and home studio tools. Let me know what you think.
Daylight just finally reached its end. When Stephen falls, strikes into the sky. Far away in the dark, crimson moonlight, sickening souls cry out in pain.
Alright, so there you have it, man. Mourning Palace recreated almost 30 years later. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you thought. And if you have any information about what was used on the recordings, that'd be cool to know too. Now, if you like what I do here, please feel free to check out my website, chernobylaudio.com. There's a lot of resources there if you're working on writing, mixing extreme metal. It's extreme metal oriented. So there's Neural DSP guitar presets there, Superior Drummer 3 kit presets. There's NAMM profiles there now. I'm going to have some Tonex profiles up there pretty damn quick, as well as mixing resources, again, all geared towards extreme metal. It's the best way to support the channel and would be highly appreciated. Anyway, if you want more, you can watch my recreation of Endsource Salad by Chaos. You can see if I screwed that one up or not. You can just click right here. Right here. Just right there.